Hello and welcome to a very chilly Stockport, and I'm out shooting with the Agfamatic 100 sensor. This is a 1970s camera that shoots 1:6 film, which you can't get anymore. So how am I doing this? Well, let's travel back in time, just an hour and a half, and go back to the studio, and I will show you how this was made possible. The Agfamatic 100 sensor, the first camera that I ever operated, and if you watch my little video about all my cameras you will have briefly seen this. But what I'm going to do today is to try and bring this back to life. Now, this isn't actually the one that I had as a child because I don't know what happened to that, but I got this on eBay for I think it was about a tenner, maybe a little bit more. No, I think it was about a 10, I can't remember exactly, but very, very cheap. And I decided that I was going to try and get it to work. Now, I know that you can't get the film for it anymore. So what I did was I also bought this, a roll of Tudor colour that had already been exposed. So what I did then, I broke open this cartridge and took out the colour film. I then replaced it with exposed 35mm film just to test it, and that's what's in here now. But I retained the backing paper because that prevents the light going through, and also what I realised is that there are holes in the backing paper which tell the camera when it's on a frame. So if you actually use 35mm on its own, there are lots more perforations in a 35mm, and it really messes with this thing's head. So what you need to do is keep the backing paper in, and then the backing paper acts as a barrier, but then when there's the hole in the backing paper, the little pin in here goes through and it tells it that it is on a number and it should take a shot. So I've tried that, it winds on fine, its shutter goes fine. So it's worked with the old 35mm film. What that means is that I can then use a brand new 35mm film, which I will load in a dark bag, and I will show you how I'm going to do that. I can put that in here and shoot it as if it were 1:26 film. Now, the perforations do mean, you probably see at the back there, a 1:26 film wouldn't have perforations at the bottom, so I'm going to lose a tiny bit of the square frame, which is a shame. But I did try loading this with cut down 120 film, and it was just impossible, at least for me, in a dark bag to manage to do that. There were just too many variables. So I'm going to go with the 35mm. So if I open this back up, you can see there is the spool of 35mm film. So that is going to be replaced with this, and the reason I'm using black and white is because I don't want to send it off to a lab. I'm going to have to cut it off the spool, and I'd rather process it myself to make sure that everything works out okay and to make sure that it doesn't damage anything in the lab. But I'm going to retain complete control by doing it this way. So, got the camera, got the spool in bits, got the film. The next thing to do, put it all together, take it out, shoot it and develop it, and that's what we're going to do today. So the first thing we need to do is just remove this old bit of film. And now we need to attach this to it. Just get my scissors to cut off the excess. I've got myself some sellotape as well. That will come in handy. So, should I reuse that bit of tape? Seems fairly sticky still. Right, so that is on there. The rest needs to be done in the dark. roll it onto one side, onto the spool. And this is just to make it easier to get onto the other spool, which is where it's actually going to end up. I have made a mark with sellotape to show the maximum length that the film can go up to before it won't fit. So we roll the film up really tight. And then when we get to the film, start to roll the film into the spool all the way along. Then when we get to the end, that goes into there, that goes into there, that goes over the top, and then we tape each end. And we're done. So this I can just put into the 126 camera, and fingers crossed it will act just like it would have done back in the 1970s. The trickiest bit was actually cutting the film in the dark and making sure I didn't cut the backing paper. But right, let's load this in and see if it works. I can actually open it, there we go. So you can see inside, this is the little catch, the little pin that tells it when it's on an exposure, and that's why the backing paper is so important. So if I just drop the cartridge in, it should fit perfectly. Why is that? It's because the pin needs to be in or it won't go in. And then as you close it, there's a little, I didn't notice that, there's a little, it pops it out for you at that side. Can you see? That closes it onto it. So we are loaded, and then we just need to get it to wind on, and this is the bit that I am slightly nervous about. That's wound on once, twice, yes. It's grinding its gears a bit, but it is getting there. And yeah, we are at number 1, and it will wind on no more. Should we just do one test frame to see? Nothing's going to come out from this because it's so dark in here. Point it at the light. Shutter fires. Will it now go to number 2? Yes, it does. It goes to number 2. Fabulous. Right, let's go out and shoot this. It's always nice coming out taking pictures in Stockport, but I am feeling like I'm running out of things to photograph. But that's just, you know, that apathy that comes with winter time. It's always easy to say, oh, go somewhere else, do something different, but actually I've just got to try and find things here. Hopefully some of it's new to you. So this is a bit of Stockport that I don't normally photograph, by the council buildings, and this beautiful building, which I think was used in Life on Mars, the TV show back in the day. It's appeared in other things. It's kind of brutalist and grim, and suitable for a 1970s camera. So yeah, here's the first frame, and you can see that it's cut the top of the frame off, but that kind of works because it's the sky. You can see the square frame of the Agfamatic Instamatic look. And what I've done here is I have used Photoshop to remove the bits that were missing, so you can get a feel for how the square frame would work. I've not done this with the other ones because I don't like to manipulate photographs, but I just wanted to show how it would have looked in the 70s. This picture, again, just taken at the same time. There are a few dust spots and specks here, which I think have come from the backing paper. I did try and clean everything, but obviously reusing things, I probably need to give them a more thorough clean before the next time they're used. Here I took 2 shots, one using the camera on the cloudy setting, one on the sunny setting, and you can see obviously that the cloudy one, it's more blurry than the other one, and I think that's because the shutter speed is slightly slower. I don't think there's a change in the aperture. So I've shot a couple of frames now and some first impressions. It's noisier than I remember, It's a real clunk when the shutter goes off. And yeah, it's interesting working with that square format. I usually think of square format as just being like expensive cameras like Hasselblads, but actually back in the day, square was what you normally got. So yeah, that's been kind of fun. I know that I'm going to lose some of the bottom because of the perforation, so they won't be perfectly square, but still it's interesting. Having a couple of winding issues. I'll see how that goes. Maybe it's just not pulling on the winder hard enough, but we'll see how we get on. So here you can see the multiple exposure. It's two shots. The first I took of the art gallery and the second I took of the town hall. They're both very close to each other, but they are certainly not connected like that. You can see the overlap in the frames. And I think that is because the sprocket holes are so close together. Basically, you've got to really tug to make sure that you don't accidentally get the sprocket holes engaged. So I made my way to near the interchange and Mersey Square, and there's always some pigeons about, so that always makes a good picture. Here again we've got another double exposure. Actually I quite like this. It almost forms an interesting panoramic, but it's not what it was supposed to do. Here again, a slight overlap. I kind of like this picture. It was the person caught between all the signs. But at the end of the day, what I'm doing here is just testing out this old camera to see what the lens will do, see how that 70s look is. I wouldn't use this on a day-to-day basis. So I'm on to my last shot, number 24, at least I think it's my last shot. And here is the last shot of Lucy waiting to get me a coffee at Starbucks. And yeah, I think it's been a fun little experiment. I'm not sure I would use this as a regular carry-around camera. It's a talking point. It might be nice to take on a trip out with other photographers to talk about it and get some snaps of them in the outdoors. But there you go, another camera tested and another bit of nostalgia wallowed in. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please do like, subscribe, share, and I will see you again very soon. But until next time, bye for now.